One day he ruled millions. The next day he was simply gone. Imagine waking up tomorrow and discovering that the leader of the world's most powerful superpower has completely vanished. Not kidnapped, not assassinated, just gone. His house is burned to the ground, his body is nowhere to be found, and his inner circle is dead silent. You'd think in our modern world of satellites and smartphones, that's impossible. But 600 years ago, this exact nightmare actually happened. The man at the center of it didn't just rule a country, he was considered a living god on earth, commanding the largest empire, the biggest army, and the most unimaginable wealth of the medieval world. Over 60 million people swore absolute, unquestioning loyalty to his name. And yet, in a single afternoon, he stepped into a room, the doors closed, and he was never seen again. His disappearance triggered a decades-long global manhunt that spanned across massive oceans and secret networks of spies. But here is the craziest part. The closer investigators got to the truth, the more terrifying the secret became. Chapter 1. The insane peak of power. To understand how insane this mystery is, you first have to understand exactly who this guy was. His name was the Jianwen Emperor, and he ruled the mighty Ming Dynasty of China. To put this in perspective for an American audience today, think of the ultimate combination of absolute political authority, trillions of dollars in wealth, and the religious devotion of a global cult. In the year 1399, if Jianwen whispered a command, an army of over 1 million battle-hardened soldiers would march to the ends of the earth without hesitation. His empire controlled the world's monopoly on silk, porcelain, and tea. The royal treasuries were quite literally overflowing with tons of solid silver and gold. In the eyes of his subjects, Jianwen wasn't just a political figurehead or a politician. He was the son of heaven. His word was law, his anger meant instant death, and his favor meant generational wealth. He sat at the absolute peak of human civilization. He possessed total, uncontested control over the Eastern Hemisphere. Every morning, hundreds of ministers and foreign ambassadors would crawl on their hands and knees into his grand audience hall, completely forbidden from even looking directly at his face. He was young, highly educated, and determined to build a peaceful, prosperous utopia. He had everything a human being could ever dream of, multiplied by 1,000. He was, without a shadow of a doubt, the most powerful man on the face of the planet. But there was a lethal flaw hidden deep within his own family tree. You see, when Jianwen took the throne, he inherited a massive problem from his grandfather, his uncles. These weren't ordinary uncles who showed up late to Thanksgiving. These were brutal, war-hardened royal princes who commanded massive personal armies on the dangerous northern frontiers of the empire. And the most dangerous uncle of them all, a terrifying warlord named Zhu Di, was looking at his nephew's golden throne with absolute envy. Jianwen knew his uncles were a threat, so he decided to launch a ruthless preemptive strike, stripping them of their titles and lands one by one. It was a brilliant political chess move, but it pushed his most dangerous uncle entirely over the edge. Zhu Di didn't back down. Instead, he raised his massive battle flags, rallied his elite cavalry forces, and declared a brutal, total civil war against his own nephew. Jianwen thought his massive imperial armies would easily crush the rebellion. He thought his power was absolute. He was completely wrong. Because within 3 short years, that very same rebel army would be knocking directly on the gates of his capital city, setting the stage for a betrayal that would alter the course of history forever. Chapter 2. The Day the Throne Went Empty. The year is 1402. The setting is Nanjing, the magnificent capital city of the Ming Empire. The Civil War had reached its absolute breaking point. Through a combination of brilliant military strategy, cold-blooded ruthlessness, and shocking inside betrayal, the rebel uncle, Zhu Di, had marched his battle-weary forces right to the capital's doorstep. The city gates, which were supposed to be impregnable, were opened wide by cowards and traitors from within the emperor's own court. As the sun began to set, thousands of fierce rebel soldiers poured into the streets, their swords unsheathed, cutting down anyone who stood in their way. Inside the grand imperial palace, chaos erupted. Servants were screaming, running in every direction, carrying armfuls of stolen treasure. The young Jianwen Emperor stood in his inner sanctum, listening to the terrifying sounds of his empire collapsing just outside his windows. He could hear the heavy thud of boots echoing through the stone courtyards. He could see the dark smoke rising above his outer walls. He knew the end had arrived. Suddenly, massive plumes of thick black smoke began pouring out of the emperor's private living quarters. The palace was on fire. The flames spread with terrifying speed, licking up the beautifully painted wooden pillars and consuming the priceless silk curtains. By the time Zhu Di and his elite guards smashed through the palace doors, swords drawn and ready for a final bloody execution, they were met with a wall of intense, suffocating heat. The magnificent palace was transforming into a raging furnace right before their eyes. Zhu Di ordered his men to brave the flames and bring him the emperor, dead or alive. They searched frantically through the collapsing, burning corridors. Hours later, when the fire finally died down into a smoldering heap of black ash and charred wood, the rebel soldiers made a shocking discovery, or rather, a lack of discovery. They found the burnt, unidentifiable remains of several bodies on the ground, allegedly belonging to the empress and a few loyal servants. But as for the young emperor himself, there was absolutely nothing. No royal robes, no imperial seal, no undeniable proof of death. The most powerful man alive had completely vanished into thin air. The throne was totally empty, the imperial crown was gone, and the new ruler was left standing in a room full of ash, realizing that his ultimate prize might have just slipped right through his fingers. Chapter 3. The Secret Land and Sea Manhunt. Now, if you are the new emperor, this is your absolute worst nightmare. You have taken the throne by force, but as long as the true emperor is alive somewhere out there, your entire reign is completely illegitimate. At any moment, he could reappear, rally the millions of citizens who still love him, and launch a counter-revolution to take back his birthright. Paranoia quickly gripped the new regime like a vice. Zhu Di couldn't sleep. He couldn't trust his own shadow. He immediately launched what would become one of the most intense, expensive, and secretive manhunts in human history. He established a terrifying network of secret police and imperial spies who infiltrated every single corner of the empire. They checked every village, searched every home, and monitored every major roadway. They kept a hyper-vigilant eye on anyone who looked suspicious or spoke out against the new regime. But the spies found absolutely nothing on land. So the emperor turned his eyes toward the vast, uncharted oceans. This brings us to one of the most fascinating coincidences, or calculated moves, in world history. Just a few years after the disappearance, the Ming Dynasty launched the legendary treasure fleets, commanded by the towering, brilliant Admiral Zheng. These weren't ordinary boats. They were colossal floating cities, some over 400 feet long, making Christopher Columbus's ships look like tiny toy rowboats. Officially, this massive armada was built to display China's incredible wealth and power to the rest of the world, establishing trade and demanding tribute from foreign kingdoms. But modern historians uncover a much darker, secret secondary directive hidden deep within the official records. Zheng was given highly confidential orders to search every single foreign port, every remote island, and every coastal kingdom across Southeast Asia and the Indian Ocean. The primary mission? Look for any trace of the missing, exiled nephew. If a foreign king was harboring the deposed emperor, Zheng massive military fleet was fully prepared to flatten their cities and take him back by force. For nearly 3 decades, this massive, hyper-expensive operation drained the empire's resources. Spies searched high-altitude mountain monasteries, and sailors scoured distant tropical ports. An entire generation grew up under the heavy shadow of this obsession. Yet despite all the wealth, all the spies, and the most powerful navy the world had ever seen, the missing emperor remained a ghost, completely untraceable. Chapter 4. The top conspiracy theories. Where did he go? So what actually happened to him? Where do you go when you are the most famous face on the continent and you need to disappear forever? Why did his uncle spend millions of gold pieces over 25 years searching for him? Why did the secret police continue executing people rumored to have seen him? The actions of the new regime proved that they didn't believe he died in that fire for a single second. This brings us to the second, and by far the most popular theory in Chinese folklore, the monk escape. According to secret court diaries and later historical accounts, as the rebel forces were breaking through the city gates, Jianwen opened a highly classified, heavily locked iron chest left behind by his grandfather for an absolute emergency. One day you can rule over 60 million people, commanding the largest empire on Earth, and the next day you can be reduced to a historical question mark, leaving behind nothing but an empty throne and a pile of cold ash. If you want to uncover more of history's most baffling, hidden mysteries that they never taught you in school, hit that subscribe button right now. Drop a comment below with which theory you think is the truth. See you in the next video.